Welcome to the Leaders Cafe, where leaders discuss the latest trends and issues in leadership, team building, and the future of organizations. Each week, we'll bring you engaging conversations with successful leaders who will share their insights, experiences, and strategies for creating effective teams, navigating change, and driving innovation. So sit back, relax, and join us for a virtual cup of coffee at the Leaders Cafe.
Good morning, good afternoon. Dan, you got your mute on. How are you doing today?
Doing well, my buddy, my friend, my pal of mine. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right.
Well, I mean, we got a little bit of a serious topic to talk about real quick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as you guys may know, I'm involved a little bit with Team Rubicon, not as much as I used to be, but I still, am around it. Still support it 100%. And the other day, they posted one of the team members committed suicide. I didn't really know this individual, so I'm not going to divulge too much information on who he was, but he was a Marine, and he had a family, and the demons got to him, right? Obviously, I've lost friends to suicide, both from military guys and also guys I worked with and stuff over the years, and it always perplexes me a bit about it. And we're here, right? And and I know you probably have heard this thousands of times about suicide prevention and 22 a day and whatnot, and that we truly are here. And I was on Steve Kerr's podcast called 5 Minutes to Chaos. It's new. Check it out. It's great. Steve is an awesome individual and a great interviewer. We had a great conversation regarding an event that I responded to and some of the post-traumatic stress that was involved for me. And I held on to it for a long time. I was never really suicidal or anything like that, but it did impact me. And so we go through this process, and I've spoke about this before. We go through this process of holding on to things, and you have to have this create a circle that you can be comfortable in, to be able to be open and honest and have a conversation. So Dan is one of the guys who I can speak to, and I spoke about before with Brian Colburn, who we kind of keep each other accountable, but we also are there for each other to talk about things that are bothering us. So find that person or persons that you can do that with, because it can sneak up on you, right? And so I want you all to really think about what you're doing. And Katie Speranza Carrie, from IEM, she started to do some stuff with mental health as well, and it's one of the things that we really need to embrace and support those of us. Everybody should go through it, actually, that have stresses and stuff that are happening in life. And COVID is one of those things that I know a lot of people quit the job because of it when it came to emergency management, and other jobs as well, paramedics and whatnot, nurses, doctors. So I'm gonna post this here today, and I want to let you guys know that if you're feeling suicidal, if you know somebody who is, a couple of different numbers. The 1-866-4FL-HERO. I know it's Florida based, but they are a national program for first responders, and those. Sometimes it's easier to talk to somebody who understands what you're going through than it is to talk to the others. And then here's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline as well. So please take those numbers down, share them, and let's see what we could do to reduce the number of people who are taking their lives due to stresses of the job and life. So sorry to start off on a kind of a bummer of a topic, but I think that's it was really important to get that out today. So thank you for indulging me for a couple of minutes.
Well, I mean, personally, I mean, it's such an important topic that, yeah, it is heartbreaking, and it's one of those that it's not a happy topic. It's not a happy subject, but people need to hear it. We need to talk about it. I think what's important too is that if you are someone who knows somebody who falls into this category of being suicidal or being depressed or having PST um, or PTS, is understanding too what steps you could take to help them without forcing them to do things. I mean, calling the hotlines, that's one of those steps that if you are considering suicide or depressed or having thoughts that you consider to be unhealthy, talking to somebody that you don't know is sometimes easier than talking to somebody you do know. You feel embarrassed, so you don't want people in your family or your friends to know that you're having these thoughts. You don't want to show weakness. Ultimately, though, if someone does come to you and express these things, express these thoughts, knowing how to respond, knowing how to help them is important. So do some research on it as well, and how you could, be that person that someone can rely on and confide in and come to prevent it getting worse or going to the point of no return.
And this is important to talk about on leadership as well, because you're leading dynamic organizations, and the stressful portion of it, knowing your teammates, knowing who works for you, who you're leading, is critical. And one of the things that I want to talk about today is authentic leadership, and what does that truly mean? And when you think of the authentic leader, it's somebody who you can really get to, who really espouses the qualities of being true to yourself first, right? And then your own values, and then you're being transparent with others and being around others. And so sometimes you hear about people like, oh yeah, this guy is like super authentic, he's super raw. That's not holding back, and you don't put a facade on or hide behind like this persona of somebody who's tough or whatever. And you show up as you are, and you're genuine, and you allow others to see that as well, which I think is critical. And so being raw sometimes and being vulnerable are critical aspects of what it does, of what authentic leadership is. And that's the basic tenets of it. I want to dive into the first tenet, and it's know yourself. And I think that's the hardest step in being an authentic leader, is knowing who you are yourself. And we get wrapped up into all sorts of things, right? Titles, what we're doing. You're who you are by yourself. You're who you are when you're with your significant other. You're who you are when you're around your children. As a boss, as an employee, as a coach, as a mentor, as a teacher, whatever you do, right? You kind of have those roles, and it's really easy to fall into that role and say, this is who I am. And I always, what I find interesting when you ask the question, and Daniel, I'm gonna turn it to you here in a second. When you go, who are you? And when you meet somebody new for the first time, you go, hey Dan, nice to meet you, Todd Bo. Well, what do you do? Right? It's a question we ask because it's a small talk. What do you do? Or what are you working on? Or that. We never really ask people, like, when you say who are you, right? Or what are you about? We defer a lot to the identity wrapped up into what we do. I am a teacher. I'm a professor. I'm a police officer, firefighter, emergency manager, lawyer, doctor, whatever, right? We wrap ourselves into that title and to that job description. And we share a small sliver of who we are to people, but we never go, oh yeah, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a outdoors person, or whatever, those things that make you who you are. And I think that's interesting. So Daniel, what know yourself. What is your step? Do you know yourself? And or are you working on that, or what?
I think for one to really know themselves, it's a continual thing. I mean, you continue to evaluate yourself and evaluate your decisions and evaluate the things that you do and who you interact with and all these things. I mean, it's continual. But I think authenticity itself is bringing who you are to what you do. So I mean, I don't change who I am when I go to work or when I'm being a father or a husband or a neighbor or a son or whatever it may be. I am who I am, and I bring that to what I do. And I think true authenticity is knowing that you're continuing to grow and to evolve and to be, but you're bringing who you are to what you do. And if you're not pretending to care for somebody, you're not pretending to be a good father, good husband, good neighbor. You are those things, and authenticity comes from bringing that to what it is that you do and being self-aware. If for whatever reason I'm not bringing all that I am to what I do, knowing that and then taking steps to improve that. We just joked about this yesterday. I mean, knowing that, being self-aware enough to know that sometimes I don't smile a lot. So, I'm not, I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I have RBF, resting business face. So ultimately knowing that and working, and I continually work to improve that, to be that more welcoming, more approachable, because that's who I am. I am that, but do I show that? And that's what authenticity is. And I think authenticity too has, it's one of those things that some people are like, that doesn't exist, or you can never be truly authentic, and blah blah blah. Whatever, however your conception is, whatever that conception is of being authentic, be yourself, be the true you. Don't try and pretend to be something you're not. I mean, you hear fake it till you make it. Well, that's self growth. That's self awareness. You're not where you want to be. You know where you want to go. Act the way you want to be, the way that you feel. Bring your whole self to that, and I think that's true authenticity.
I know sometimes that people have imposter syndrome, and that's like one of the things that, as a teacher, as a professor, um, I I deal with my students a lot of times that go through that, because I have um master students, and they're like, oh, can I really write this article? Can I write this thesis on this topic? And what I have to mentor them through or ensure them is saying, look at you're going to be, for that small period of time, once you publish that paper, you are going to be the expert on that particular topic, right? And yeah, so that's going to be, you're going to be that. And so I think that going through that imposter syndrome, and it goes to, this brings it to the next point on the 5 portions of what emerges, or what it is to be an authentic leader, is it's being honest and transparent, right? And not, when you're saying being honest and transparent, it's not being cruel, right? It's saying being able to, at yourself, first of all, know your shortcomings, know your team's shortcomings, and being able to articulate that to them, I think, is part of it, part of the honesty part. And sometimes people go, oh, if you're honest, you're being mean or cruel to people. And I almost think that if you're not honest with them, and I'm gonna say this is gonna be kind of controversial, I suppose. Sometimes we tell people, oh, you can do whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. I am a 5'10", chubby at best, white guy, with okay athletic skills, right? Um, I don't think that there are things that I don't do well in sports. I will never be a professional athlete. even when I was at my peak. For somebody to come over to me and be like, "Oh yeah, you're going to be able to be a great hockey player or a great football player or basketball player or whatever," right? You know, I don't think that would have given me a bad um encouragement, if you will, to go into things that I probably would never excel in.
Well, I think it's important to realize too in those situations that it's if you really want something, then you spend time at it. You get better at it. You practice. You know if you really want to be a great hockey player, then the more time you spend uh, becoming a better hockey player, the more likeliness you can get that reach that right. A professional athlete, whatever it may be, even if it's collegiate or high school, whatever it may be. But understanding that, I mean, I'm not going to be able to walk out the door in the morning having never done it before and be great at it, right?
Well,
So that takes time, just like leadership. It's one of those things. You're not just going to wake up and be a great leader. You got to practice it. And you got to do it. And you got to hone it. And you got to be better at it. I think this is where honesty comes in. And I think the transparency part of it, and the honesty part of it, brings from how to be candid and how to do so respectfully. I mean, you can be candid and truthful with somebody without being, disheartening and a drain on them professionally or personally. But I think having that transparency in yourself is really understanding. Okay, like this is what I do, is how I do it. You don't have to be disrespectful in your candid. I mean, there's even a book out there on there's several actually on being candid and how to do so professionally and with respect and honesty and is genuine. To be genuine with the responses and the coaching and the mentorships, whatever it may be. But understanding too that, if the more time you put into something, the better you get, so.
I want to stop on that for 1 second, and I'm going to give it right back to you, because there's a difference between somebody who has the athletic ability to do it. I would never, no matter how much time I practice or whatever, I am not going to be able to throw 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Right? That's not practice. There's some natural born skill that's associated, or natural born talent that's associated with it, but I would never be able to throw 100 miles. So I'd never be a major league pitcher.
That's a self limitation.
Well, no,
but I mean, you placed on yourself.
No, but I mean, I physically don't have the twitch muscles to be able to do that.
But if you trained and actually trained to do it, your body would accommodate that. The more your body does, the more you move, the more whatever it is, especially if you grow up wanting to do that and doing that as, your body.
Well, no, and that's just say, go back to it. I understand if you put the work into it, you could get there, right, on certain things, but there are just certain, I'm like being 5'10", the likelihood of me being able to jump up and be the champion of a dunking contest is without having some assistance of like a springboard or something.
But there are several NBA professional basketball players who are 5'10" and below.
Not dunking though.
Oh, come on! You want me to pull it up now?
Mm-hmm.
You ever did Bugsy?
It's Bugsy. I don't think he dunked though, did he?
He could dunk, dude.
So
just saying, anyway, it can be done. It's just, but one of those things about it is just like the 4-minute mile, right? You heard about that, right? So
yeah.
No one ever thought they could do it for them or even tried. The second it was broken, it only lasted for 40 days before the next person broke that record because they saw it done. So it's one of those things that the limits are only what we believe, so, but it's how much time we put into it, how much we try, how much effort, how much we're willing to sacrifice. Like, are we willing to sacrifice our body and put that much effort into being a great pitcher, a great basketball player, a football player, knowing that there are limits to it,
right? But I mean, and I know we're arguing about.
No, I think it's a good argument to have,
right? But I mean, like, there's one aspect of it too. Like, there's times when Aaron Rodgers, for instance, is a good example, right? Great quarterback, did great stuff, won Super Bowls, getting kind of old, doesn't have the same step that he used to have. You know what I mean? So there's, like I said, there's a time when there's being honest with somebody, but not being cruel. That's my point about that. Right? That, does Aaron Rodgers have to retire? Are you going to be a professional football player when, playing nose tackle for the defense when everybody's 6 foot something? You know what I mean? and big. So I mean, there are physical limitations that say, hey, you probably shouldn't be focusing your time on this. Do it, play it, have fun with it. Be not saying don't do it, but if you want to be a professional, you should probably look at a different solution to your economic problems that you're going to have for jobs. That's what I'm talking about. But you don't have to do it in a mean way.
I get that. I mean, I understand. Yeah. I get that point. There is a point where you're physically limited to do things, but mentally, a lot of our limitations occur and start mentally, and then that's how they begin. There's a difference between a physical limitation and knowing, okay, I just physically can't do that anymore,
right,
or at all now. But mentally, a lot of our limitations that we focus on and experience every day, they start right there. It's like, I'd never be able to do that. I can't do that, because you're already telling yourself you can't do it.
That's true. No, I get that. I get that. But I'm just saying, like, as a leader, you don't have to be cruel. You can be honest and be nice and transparent. And then we go into the other part of it. So the third tenet of authenticity, authentic leadership, jeepers, is building the relationships. And it's building your relationship with your team. It's building your team's relationships with each other. I think that's obviously outside of the relationships, but we keep it within the idea of leadership in your team. It's building those relationships within your team. And I tell people, you don't have to become best friends with everybody that you work with, but you have to be friendly with everybody that you work with. You can't, and trust is part of it.
Well, yeah, trust is a huge part of it. I think especially for any real large, not even large, small. I mean, team-oriented organizations, or developing teams in general, organizations, jurisdictions, just businesses. Having that trust in one another is huge, but that comes from that transparency we talked about, right? Being the ability to build that trust and being consistent in our efforts. But yeah, trust is huge in things that we do, but it relates to on me being able to do my job, me expecting you to be able to do your job, or to rely on you in a tough situation, or you can rely on me in a tough situation. Having that trust actually allows you to not only build a relationship, but to build upon yourselves in the business and whatever it may be, because you can have that expectation that things are getting done the way they're supposed to get done. People are doing what they're supposed to be doing. People, that if there is a lot of part of that trust and that relationship building is having the true desire to really be empathetic in what's going on in the organization. If someone's struggling, why are they struggling? And do you care enough to say, hey, what's going on? Can I help? And understanding that, building that relationship and building that person up is part of that as well.
Absolutely. And then but part of the trust and building the relationships, and all of this kind of goes together, right, is the idea of embracing, and I said it earlier about being vulnerable to who you are, to your team, and to those that you serve. Why is vulnerability, and it's one of those hardest ones, especially, as somebody who comes from the first response world. Well, why is embracing vulnerability such the hard step for everybody? Not for everybody, but for most people.
Well, I mean, this is an area too I've actually done some research on, because of come off from first response, and it's one of those things that you don't share your innermost feelings, right? But being vulnerable means being able to let down your guard enough to trust other people to say, listen, I'm having an issue, or I'm having trouble. Even if it's professionally, to say, listen, I'm having issues getting this done, or issue getting it done on time, or understanding what the assignment is, or whatever it may be, to really let that down. But that can also be one of those things too, to just say, vulnerability, to say, I just don't know. But we got that fear inside of us to say, if I tell people I don't know, or I tell people I'm having trouble, I'm going to look bad.
Fake it till you make it.
It's actually the complete opposite. People look at you as more human.
Right.
They look at you as more like, okay, what can I do to help? Like, what can I help you? And knowing that you've trusted them enough to let that information out, they're potentially going to be able to turn around and trust you enough to be vulnerable with you. And it could be professionally or personally, but overall, it's having that willingness to open up and just say, listen, I just really don't know. I don't understand. I'm having trouble with this. It actually brings a higher level of trust between a relationship.
Right. And then this last part is lead by example. I almost think that's the hardest. I think it's the hardest part of it is lead. But when I say that, because like everybody goes, oh yeah, I can lead by example, right? And you think about the military, right? Like, hey, you're gonna look good in your uniform, and then you're gonna tell your troops to look good in your uniform, whatever, right? That type of thing. I think it's more than that. I think when you lead by example, you have to keep yourself accountable to what's happening with the entire team. And like one of the things that I talk a lot about is sharing credit across your team and taking the blame. And I don't know if that's necessarily leading by example or not. But what it is you're setting that expectation that your team needs to work together, and that's the one way you can show publicly by leading by example. The other one too is, if you're gonna tell people, hey, you need to, do step above and go beyond everything, you need to step up and go beyond, first, and not expect the your employees to do more than what you do. Now there's a double-edged sword there, right? Because sometimes if you are going up and above and beyond, and then you expect your employees to go up and above and beyond, there has to be some sort of boundaries and limitations that you set, or that they set, because they have families and they have things that they're doing. You can't expect them to only live and bleed your organization, that they have things that they have to do. So I think there's some limitations to that, right? But leading by example, being on time, having your work in order, things like that. Because if you're a mess, your team is going to be a mess, and I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're coming up on our time, so I don't want to, go too long in this, but I think it boils down to realistic expectations that you have on yourself and others. But I think it goes right back to the first, part that you had mentioned when it comes to authenticity in leadership, is just really being self-aware and being, knowing your capabilities and what it is that you do, and just knowing that you are living that example to the people that are in your charge or looking to you for guidance. And it comes down to just that. Are you the same person all the time? That's really what authenticity is. It's like, I'm not pretending to be something when you look at me. I mean, I am this way all the time. I care about people all the time. So I care about what you're doing, how you're doing. I'm working on my business. I'm spending hours in the office. I'm spending time with my family. I'm spending time with my friends. The home family balance is good. The way I treat people, the way I treat clients is all, it equals out. That it all boils back down to that, right? Like, I'm leading by example by being authentic in what I do, and I think that in itself, but it boils down to that realistic expectation of, listen, people are at different parts of their lives as it relates to their work home balance, right? So some people have families, some don't. Some are single, some are married, some are divorced, some have kids, some don't. So it's understanding too that, just because I'm in the office for 50, 60 hours because it's my business, doesn't mean I expect you to be in the office for 50, 60 hours because it's my business, so
right.
Understanding that realistic expectation you have for others and yourself.
Absolutely. One of the things too, I like to put into lead by example is, I like to cultivate the next leader. And what I mean by that is, and if anybody's ever been around me with some of the things I'm leading, I'm going to put people that I recognize have potential talent, and I'm going to put them in positions to where they are the person in charge, and to the point to where I'll be there to mentor them, but I will have them make the decisions. And sometimes I don't want to say angry, I get disappointed or frustrated when you have somebody who's like, okay, you're in charge of this, Dan. And then, you come over to me and you're like, well, can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, yeah, do what you got to do, make it occur. Don't ask me permission, right? And so and the only thing the only caveat I ever put to that is it going to cost me money, right? Or are you signing us up for something that I'm going to have to eventually have to pay for, either whether with time or money, right? Other than that, do what you got to do and make it happen, and that's just my leadership style. But I think that's by leading by example, saying, hey, hopefully the next leaders that are coming up behind, being with this organization, they are going to say, this is how we develop leadership. And Dan, I know you've worked with me on a bunch of projects, especially the symposium, where I was like, dude, just do it, just make it happen. I don't, I trust you. You're going to make good decisions. Just come to me if it costs money so I can approve it or not. But that's kind of what I think about by leading by example.
That's a good area, to be able to delegate some authority to others to make decisions and run projects and instill trust in them. That's a big part of it, as well as you're instilling trust in someone else to do a job or a project that is part of the organization in which you represent. So absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a great conversation. When we get into this, I think when we walk away from it, I said, if you know yourself, being honest and transparent, building those relationships based upon honesty and transparency and trust, embrace that vulnerability, be raw with your team. You have to overshare, but you should let them know who you are, right? And then lead by example, and embrace that idea and develop. And I'm going to add a sixth step to this, and has developed new leaders that are coming behind you, because you're not going to be there forever. At some point, someone's going to have to take your job. And I'm always happy if somebody does much better than me than I did before. So that's just kind of my idea of authentic leadership. Dan, let you bring it home.
Well, no, I think you're right on there. Definitely in developing others. For all those who are watching, I hope you gained some insight today on authentic leadership. Pick and choose some ways to make yourself better, to make others better. It's always something that we're trying to instill in not only ourselves but others as well. Keep a lookout for some of the stuff that's going to be coming from Leaders Cafe. We got the rest of the year booked out as far as doing our live leadership networking events. We're going to do our first live networking event in Irvine on July 19th, Wednesday, July 19th. We're going to be in Dallas, Fort Worth. We're going to be in New York City. So we're coming to where you are. So if you want to help with the effort, want us to come to your town, want us to bring these leadership events to you, reach out to us. We definitely want to hear from you. Please listen to Leaders Cafe. Please like, comment, share. We want to spread the wealth, spread the growth, and engage with others to ultimately grow this initiative that we have going on. So thank you very much for listening, and I will talk to you next time.
Hey, everybody. Until next time, stay safe and, stay hydrated.